Kang Day stood at the window of his research station, watching the twin moons rise over the rocky landscape. He had been alone on Baekdu 7 for 8 months now, studying the local wildlife. Most people thought he was crazy for choosing such a remote posting. But Day loved the quiet. He loved watching the strange creatures that lived on this distant world. His scanner beeped. Something large was moving outside. Day checked the screen and his blood went cold. The heat signature was massive. He pulled up the species database and felt his heart hammer in his chest. Vralken. An adult Vralken was right outside his station. Everyone in the galaxy knew about Vralken. They were apex predators, standing over 9 feet tall with claws that could tear through metal. They were hunters, killers. In 300 years of galactic history, no one had ever befriended a Vralken. People who got close to them simply died. Day watched through the security cameras as the creature dragged itself across the rocks. It was wounded badly. Green blood leaked from several wounds across its body. Plasma burns, Day realized. Someone had shot it. Probably poachers. The creature collapsed near his station's entrance, its massive chest heaving. The smart thing would be to stay inside, lock the doors, wait for it to leave or die. That's what anyone else would do. But Day had spent his whole life studying animals. He had always believed that every creature deserved compassion, even the dangerous ones. He suited up and opened the outer airlock. The cold air hit him immediately. He moved slowly, carefully, keeping his hands visible. The Vralken's head turned toward him. Its eyes were yellow and sharp even in its weakened state. Day could see the intelligence there. This was not just an animal. Vralken were fully sentient beings. Then the creature did something Day never expected. It spoke. The translator device on its throat sparked and crackled. But the word came through clearly. Please, Day froze. Vralken never asked for help. They never said please. They took what they wanted or they died trying. His eyes moved past the wounded creature and his breath caught. Behind a cluster of rocks, 2 small shapes huddled together. Cubs. Baby Vralken, barely the size of large dogs. They were making small crying sounds, frightened and alone. The mother Vralken used one massive claw to push the cubs toward Day. The gesture was unmistakable. She was dying and she knew it. She was asking him to take her children. Every piece of training Day had received screamed at him to refuse. Vralken cubs grew up to be killers. They could not be tamed. They could not be trusted. Raising them was suicide. But as Day looked into the mother's eyes, he saw something that changed everything. He saw hope. He saw a mother's desperate love for her children. He saw trust. The Vralken lowered her massive head to the ground, placing her forehead against the rocky surface. Her breathing was slowing. The cubs cried louder, sensing their mother's distress. Day made a decision that he knew would either be the bravest or stupidest thing he had ever done. He approached the cubs slowly. They hissed at him, showing tiny fangs. But they were scared more than aggressive. Day pulled out a thermal blanket from his emergency kit and gently wrapped it around both of them. They weighed almost nothing. Their fur was soft and warm. They struggled for a moment, then seemed to sense he meant no harm. Day carried the cubs toward his station. Behind him, he heard the mother Vralken make a sound. It was not a growl or a roar. It was something softer, almost like gratitude. He turned back one more time and saw her watching him. Then her eyes closed. Her breathing stopped. Inside the station, Day set the cubs down on his bunk. They immediately curled together, shivering despite the warmth. He had no idea what to feed them. His computer searched through thousands of files on Vralken biology. Most of it was about how they killed things. Very little was known about how to care for their young. He tried offering them standard ration bars. They sniffed and turned away. He tried synthetic meat. Same response. Finally, he opened a container of real chicken he had been saving. The cubs' eyes lit up. They tore into the meat eagerly, making happy chirping sounds. Day watched them eat and realized he had crossed a line he could never uncross. If the Galactic Council found out he was harboring Vralken cubs, they would take them away. They would probably kill them. The cubs would be seen as future threats, dangerous weapons that needed to be eliminated before they could hurt anyone. But looking at these small, frightened babies, Day could not see monsters. He saw children who had just lost their mother. Children who needed someone to care for them. His hand moved slowly toward the nearest cub. It flinched, then sniffed his fingers. Its rough tongue licked his palm. Day smiled. I guess you're staying with me, he said softly. We'll figure this out together. Over the next few days, Day learned quickly. The cubs, which he named Bomb and Hanul after the spring sky he missed from Earth, were curious and playful. They followed him everywhere. They learned their names within hours. When he said no, they actually listened. This was nothing like the report said Vralken should behave. He kept detailed notes, their body temperature, their eating habits, their sleep patterns. But more than that, he recorded their behavior. How Bomb brought him his dropped stylus. How Hanul purred when he scratched behind her ears. How they both curled up against him at night seeking warmth and comfort. 3 weeks passed. The cubs grew stronger every day. Day knew he could not keep this secret forever. But every day he spent with them, he became more certain of one thing. The galaxy was wrong about Vralken. They were not born monsters. They were shaped by how they were raised. And if he could raise them with kindness and love, maybe they could become something the galaxy had never seen before. Maybe they could become proof that even the most dangerous creatures could choose a different path. Maybe they could change everything. 3 months had passed since Day took in the cubs. Bomb and Hanul had grown incredibly fast. They were now the size of adult wolves, though still young by Vralken standards. Every day brought new surprises. Yesterday, Hanul had learned to open doors. This morning, Bomb had figured out how to turn on the water dispenser by himself. Day sat at his desk, updating his research logs. Bomb was asleep under the table, his tail wrapped around Day's ankle. Hanul was playing with a rubber ball, batting it across the room and chasing it. The scene was so domestic, so normal, that Day sometimes forgot how impossible it all was. His communication panel beeped. Day's heart jumped. A ship was approaching. He checked the schedule. The supply ship was not due for another 2 weeks. This was bad. Bomb, Hanul, come here, Day said firmly. Both cubs immediately stopped what they were doing and trotted over. He had trained them to go into the back storage room when he gave a certain command. Hide quiet. The cubs tilted their heads, sensing his worry. But they obeyed, disappearing into the storage area. Day sealed the door and tried to calm his racing heart. Maybe the visitor would just drop off supplies and leave. Maybe they would not ask to come inside. 20 minutes later, Captain Choi Sung stood at the airlock. Day had met Sung a few times before. He was a decent man, friendly enough. Day opened the door but stood in the entrance, blocking the view inside. Captain Sung, this is unexpected, Day said, trying to sound casual. Sorry to drop in unannounced, Sung replied. We had extra fuel and were in the area. Thought you might need supplies early. You okay? You look nervous. No, I'm fine. Just surprised, that's all. Sung held up a container. Fresh coffee from Earth. Figured you might be missing the real stuff. The smell hit Day immediately. Real coffee. He had been drinking synthetic for months. His resolve weakened. That's very kind of you. Can I come in? It's freezing out here. Day could not think of a good reason to say no. He stepped aside. Sung entered, looking around the small station. Everything seemed normal. Day started to relax. Maybe this would be okay. Then Hanul sneezed. It was a loud, distinctive sound that came from the storage room. Sung froze. What was that? Nothing. Just the ventilation system. It makes weird noises sometimes, but Sung was not convinced. He was a captain trained to notice details. His eyes moved to the floor. There were scratches on the metal tiles. Large scratches. His face went pale. Day, what do you have in there? It's nothing dangerous, I promise. Open the door. Captain, please, open it now, or I'm reporting to the council immediately. Day's shoulders slumped. He was caught. He walked to the storage room and opened the door. Bomb and Hanul bounded out, excited to see someone new. They ran toward Sung, tails wagging. Sung backed away so fast he hit the wall. His hand went to his sidearm. Those are Vralken. You have Vralken cubs in here. They're not dangerous, Day said quickly, stepping between Sung and the cubs. Look at them. They're friendly. Bomb sat down and tilted his head, confused by the stranger's fear. Hanul made a chirping sound, the same one she made when she wanted attention. Friendly? Sung's voice was high with panic. Vralken are never friendly. They grow up to be killers. What are you thinking? They're just babies. Their mother died and left them with me. I couldn't just let them die. You should have called the authorities. You should have. This is insane, Day. Sung pulled out his communicator. I have to report this. Please don't, Day begged. Give me a chance to explain. but Sung was already typing. I'm sorry. I like you, but this is too big. The council needs to know. Within 3 days, Day's quiet station became the center of galactic attention. Ships arrived carrying representatives from 12 different species. Scientists, security officers, council members. They all came to see the impossible situation. A human living with Vulcan cubs. The leader of the delegation was Thalarix, an insectoid being from the Kitik species. Her compound eyes studied Day coldly. Mr. Kang Day, you have violated 17 safety protocols and 3 interspecies protection laws. These cubs must be terminated immediately. No, Day stood firm. They haven't hurt anyone. They're not violent. Not yet, Thalarix said. But they will be. We have centuries of data. 847 attempts to domesticate or rehabilitate Vulcan. Every single one failed. Every single one ended in death. A scientist stepped forward. The cubs are young now, but their instincts will emerge. When they reach maturity, they will become aggressive. They will hunt. They will kill. It is in their nature. Nature isn't destiny, Day argued. How they're raised matters. You are naive, another council member said. You humans are new to the galactic community. Only 80 years since first contact. You do not understand what we know. Vulcan cannot be changed, Dee felt desperation rising. Then let me prove you wrong. Give me time. 6 months. Let me show you what's possible. The council members looked at each other. Thalarix clicked her mandibles. This is foolish, but you have advocates among the human representatives. They believe in your research. Against my better judgment, I will offer you a trial period. Thank you. I am not finished. You will have 6 months. We are assigning a security team to this station. Any sign of aggression from the cubs, any hint of danger, and they will be eliminated. No second chances. Additionally, we are sending Dr. Park Yuna, a human xenopsychologist. She will document everything. Do you accept these terms? Day looked back at Baum and Hanul. They were huddled together, frightened by all the strangers. Baum was licking Hanul's ear, trying to comfort her. They were just children. Children who trusted him. I accept, Day said. Dr. Park Yuna arrived the next day. She was younger than Day expected. Maybe 30 years old with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She set up cameras throughout the station and began her observations immediately. I want to be clear, Yuna said on her first evening. I do not expect this to succeed. I have reviewed all the literature on Vulcan. Every expert agrees they cannot be domesticated. I am here to document the failure so others do not repeat your mistake. Day nodded. I understand. But you'll document the truth, whatever that is? That is my job. That night, Yuna watched through her monitors as Day prepared the cubs for sleep. He brushed their fur, checked their teeth, and told them a story. When he finished, both cubs curled up on either side of him. Baum rested his large head on Day's chest. Hanul wrapped her tail around his arm. Yuna made notes in her log. She wrote that the behavior was anomalous and unexpected, but she also wrote something else. She wrote that for the first time in her career, she hoped the data would prove her wrong. Dr. Park Yuna had been on the station for 2 months, and her initial skepticism was cracking. Every day brought new evidence that challenged everything she thought she knew about Vulcan. She reviewed the morning's footage for the 3rd time. Day had been sick with a fever, lying in bed. Without being asked, Baum had brought him water. Hanul had stayed by the door all day, refusing to play or eat, just watching over Day like a guard. When Day finally got up in the evening, both cubs had pressed against him gently, making soft, worried sounds. Yuna made careful notes. The cubs were showing empathy. They understood that Day was unwell and adjusted their behavior. This was not supposed to be possible. Vulcan were supposed to see weakness as an opportunity to establish dominance. Instead, these cubs showed concern and protection. She called a meeting with the security team. I need to send an interim report to the council. The cubs are displaying unexpected social bonding behaviors. The head of security, a large reptilian named Krex, grunted. They are still young. Wait until their adult instincts emerge? That's what everyone keeps saying. But what if those instincts don't emerge? What if environment shapes behavior more than we believed? Impossible, Krex said flatly. But Yuna was starting to wonder if impossible was just another word for things no one had tried the right way. Everything changed when Imtai arrived. He was a famous researcher from the galactic scientific community, known for his strict adherence to data and his skepticism of emotional reasoning. He brought a full team and enough equipment to fill 3 storage rooms. "Dr. Park," he said formally when they met, "I am here to conduct proper testing. I've reviewed your reports. You are becoming emotionally compromised. This experiment needs objectivity." Una felt her jaw tighten. "I am being objective. I am reporting what I observe. You are reporting anomalies that contradict centuries of established science. Before we declare a miracle, we must eliminate all other explanations. The cubs may be defective. They may have a genetic abnormality that suppresses normal Vulcan instincts. Or maybe they are proof that nurture matters more than nature." Imte smiled coldly. "Then they will pass my tests. If they truly have been changed by human care, they will resist their base programming. Let us find out." The test began the next day. Imte started simple. He introduced adult Vulcan pheromones into the cubs' environment, chemical signals that should trigger hunting and aggressive behavior. Bomb and Hanul became restless and agitated, pacing the room, but they did not attack. They stayed close to Day, looking to him for guidance. "Interesting," Imte noted. "Their instincts are triggered, but they defer to their bonded human. Let us try something stronger." He brought in live prey animals, small creatures that Vulcan normally hunted. He released them in a contained area with Hanul. The cub's pupils dilated. Her body went into a hunting crouch. Every muscle tensed. Then she looked at Day, who stood outside the enclosure. Day's face showed disappointment. Not anger, just sadness. That look stopped Hanul cold. She sat down, her tail drooping. She turned away from the prey animals and came to the edge of the enclosure, pressing her nose against the transparent wall where Day stood. "No," Imtai said. "This proves nothing. We must push harder." The hardest test came on the 3rd day. Imte separated the cubs from Day completely, putting them in isolation for 24 hours. The theory was simple. Without the human's influence, the cubs would revert to their base nature. Una watched the footage with growing concern. Bomb and Hanul did not become aggressive. They became depressed. They stopped eating. They stopped playing. They lay in the corners of their separate cells, making low, mournful sounds. When handlers tried to give them food, they ignored it. After the isolation, Imtai reunited them with Day. Both cubs ran to him immediately, pressing against him, checking him over with their noses and tongues. They made distressed chirping sounds. Day held them both, whispering that everything was okay. Hanul did not eat for 2 more days. When Una asked why, Day looked exhausted. "She thinks she did something wrong. She thinks I'm disappointed in her because of the prey test. She's punishing herself." "That is absurd," Imte said. "Vulcan do not have complex emotional responses like guilt." "Then explain why she won't eat," Day challenged. "Explain why she brings me her food bowl and then walks away. She is asking for forgiveness." On the 3rd day, Day sat down with Hanul. He held her large head in his hands and spoke softly. "I am not angry. You did nothing wrong. I am proud of you. You are good." Hanul's eyes seemed to brighten. She licked his face and finally ate her food. Imte watched this interaction and said nothing. But Una saw something flicker across his face. Doubt. While the scientific community debated, something unexpected happened. Una's documentary footage began leaking to the Galactic Network. Someone on the security team had been sharing clips. Within days, trillions of beings across hundreds of worlds were watching a human play with Vulcan cubs. They watched Day teach Bomb to play fetch, the massive cub carefully carrying a ball in his jaws without popping it. They watched Hanul learn to hug, wrapping her front legs around Day without extending her claws. They watched both cubs gently carry a baby bird that had fallen from its nest and place it back. The footage went viral. The Galactic Net exploded with reactions. Some people thought it was fake. Others were horrified. But many, especially humans on Earth, were inspired. Messages flooded into the station. Humans reached out to share their own stories. A woman on Europa had been caring for a young Krith warbeast, a species known for uncontrollable rage. But her Krith was gentle, played with children, and helped with household tasks. A man on Mars had raised an abandoned salt hex venom wing, creatures whose poison could kill with a single sting. His venom wing had never stung anyone and worked as a therapy animal. Every story followed the same pattern. Human caregiver, young alien from a dangerous species, bonds that should not exist. And every single case was succeeding. Una compiled this data and presented it to Imte. This is not an isolated incident. This is a pattern. Humans are doing something different. Or these are all defective specimens from dangerous species, Imte countered. But his voice lacked conviction. Every single one. Across dozens of species, the mathematical probability of that is essentially zero. No, this is something else. Humans have a trait that allows them to bond with and nurture almost any young creature. They see potential instead of predetermined destiny. Imtai looked at the data for a long time. Finally, he spoke. If this is true, it has enormous implications. It means we have been wrong about many things. It means behavior is not fixed at birth. He paused. It means change is possible. The galactic net continued to explode with footage and debate. Baum and Hunnell became the most famous cubs in the galaxy. People argued about what it all meant. Philosophers discussed free will versus instinct. Religious leaders debated the nature of creation and purpose. But for Day, sitting in his small station with two massive cubs sleeping peacefully beside him, the answer was simple. Love was stronger than programming. Kindness was more powerful than instinct. And every creature, no matter how dangerous, deserved a chance to choose who they wanted to be. The question was whether the galaxy would accept this truth. The message arrived on a secure channel, marked with the highest diplomatic priority. Day read it 3 times, his hands shaking. The Vralken sovereignty, the official government representing all adult Vralken in the galaxy, was sending a delegation. They were coming to assess Baum and Hunnell personally. This is bad, Captain Sung said. He had become a regular visitor to the station, helping Day however he could. The sovereignty is not known for being flexible. Yuna looked worried too. If they decide the cubs have been damaged or corrupted, they have the legal right to reclaim them. And by reclaim, I mean kill them, Day finished quietly. I know. He looked at Baum and Hunnell, who were wrestling playfully in the corner. They had grown so much. They were nearly full size now, powerful and strong. But they were still his children. The thought of losing them made his chest ache. The Vralken delegation arrived 3 days later. Their ship was massive, painted in the traditional hunting colors of the sovereignty. When the airlock opened, Day felt his breath catch. The Vralken who stepped through was enormous, even by their species' standards. His scales were marked with scars from countless battles. This was Elder Korveth, one of the most feared Vralken in known space. Behind Korveth came 4 other adult Vralken, all warriors by the look of them. The station suddenly felt very small. The security team tensed, hands moving toward weapons. But Korveth ignored them all, his yellow eyes fixed on Day. You are the human who takes what is ours, Korveth said. His voice was deep and rumbling like thunder. I took nothing, Day replied, trying to keep his voice steady. Their mother gave them to me when she was dying. I honored her last wish. A Vralken mother would never give her cubs to prey. You lie. I have video footage I can show you. Korveth waved a dismissive claw. I am not here for your excuses. I am here to see what you have done to our young. Bring them forward. Day called for Baum and Hunnell. The cubs emerged from the back room and stopped when they saw the adult Vralken. Their bodies went rigid. Some deep instinct recognized their own kind. Baum's fur stood on end. Hunnell's claws extended reflexively. Korveth stepped forward and spoke in the old Vralken hunting language. It was harsh and guttural, full of dominance and challenge. Day had never heard it before, but its meaning was clear. The elder was establishing his authority. Baum and Hunnell looked at each other, then at Day. Then Hunnell responded in Vralken. But her words were different. They included concepts that did not exist in traditional Vralken culture. Honor, kindness, family. She spoke in a way that acknowledged Korveth's status but did not submit to it. Korveth's eyes widened. This is wrong. Vralken do not speak this way. They speak the way they were taught, Dai said. With respect, but not fear. With strength, but not cruelty. Baum stepped forward and did something that shocked everyone in the room. He bowed to Korveth, a gesture of respect. But then he stood straight, meeting the elder's eyes as an equal. It was a human concept translated into Vralken behavior, respect without submission. Impossible, one of the other Vralken warriors breathed. There is only dominance or submission. There is no third path. But Korveth said nothing. He circled the cubs slowly, examining them. He tested them with traditional dominance displays. Bom and Hanul neither cowered nor attacked. They stood calm and confident, watching the elder with curious but respectful eyes. For 3 days, Korveth observed everything. He watched Dai and the cubs work together. He saw them practice hunting, simulations, moving as a coordinated team rather than competing individuals. He saw how the cubs deferred to Dai not from fear but from respect and love. On the 4th evening, Korveth asked to speak with Dai alone. They stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The elder was quiet for a long time. "You have done something we could not do," Korveth finally said. "For generations we have raised our young in the old ways, strength through conflict, power through domination. We believed this was the only path. But these cubs, they are strong without being cruel. They are proud without being arrogant. You have given them something we never could. You have given them choice. What will you tell the sovereignty?" Dai asked. "I will tell them the truth, that humans understand something we forgot long ago, that the strongest bonds come not from fear, but from trust, that there are many ways to be Vralken, and these cubs have found a better one." Dai felt relief wash over him, but Korveth's next words brought new worry. "But not all will accept this. There are those in the sovereignty who see your success as an insult to our traditions. They will not allow these cubs to live." "What do you mean?" "I mean there will be violence, soon. Be ready." Korveth left the next morning. 2 days later, alarms shrieked through the station. Unauthorized ships were approaching. The security team scrambled. Captain Sung's voice came over the comm, urgent and frightened. "Dai, get to the safe room. Now. We have hostile Vralken incoming." But Dai could not move fast enough. The station's outer wall exploded inward. 3 Vralken warriors forced their way through, weapons raised. These were not diplomats, these were killers. "The corrupted cubs die today," the lead warrior snarled, "and the human who broke them." Dai threw himself in front of Bom and Hanul. "You will have to go through me." "That can be arranged," the warrior said, raising his plasma weapon. Then Bom and Hanul moved. They were no longer cubs. They were full-grown Vralken, apex predators in every physical sense. They placed themselves between the attackers and Dai, their bodies coiled and ready. The warriors hesitated, surprised by the cubs' size and confidence. "You defend a human?" one warrior said. "You are truly broken," Hanul growled. "We defend our family." The fight was brutal and fast. The station became a war zone. Bom and Hanul fought with incredible skill, using tactics Dai had taught them from watching Earth's pack hunters. They worked together, coordinated, protecting each other and Dai. But the adult warriors were experienced and ruthless. One got past the cubs and lunged at Dai. Plasma fire struck him in the shoulder. Dai went down, pain exploding through his body. He heard Bom roar with fury. What happened next was captured on every security camera. Bom and Hanul could have killed the attackers. They were strong enough, fast enough. But they did not. They disarmed the warriors, pinned them down, and held them until the security team arrived. They showed mercy. They chose compassion even in the heat of battle. The footage spread across the galactic net faster than light. Trillions of beings watched Vralken cubs, the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, choose not to kill, choose to show mercy, choose kindness even when violence would have been justified. Yuna knelt beside Dai, applying medical foam to his wound. "Stay with me. Help is coming." Bom and Hanul pressed close, making worried sounds. Dai reached up with his good hand and touched their faces. "I am proud of you," he whispered. "So proud." As consciousness faded, Dai heard Hanul speaking to the captured warriors in Vralken. "We are not broken. We are not corrupted. We are what Vralken could be if we chose a different way. We are proof that change is possible. The galaxy would never be the same." Dai spent 2 weeks in the medical facility recovering from his wounds. Every day Bom and Hanul visited him, refusing to leave his side. The medical staff were nervous at first, but the cubs were gentle and patient. They learned to move carefully through the narrow corridors, to speak softly in the quiet healing rooms. While Dai healed, the galaxy erupted in debate. The footage of the attack and the Cubs' merciful response had broken every viewership record in galactic history. News stations played it constantly. Schools used it as teaching material. Philosophers wrote papers about it. Religious leaders preached about it. The 3 Vralken warriors who attacked were put on trial. But something unexpected happened during their testimony. They asked to speak with Bam and Hanul. When the Cubs visited them in detention, the warriors apologized. They said they had acted out of fear and tradition, but they had been wrong. They asked the Cubs to speak for them at their sentencing hearing. The entire galaxy watched as Bam and Hanul stood before the judge. Hanul spoke clearly, her voice transmitted across thousands of worlds. These warriors came to kill us because they believed we were wrong, broken, corrupted. But we are not. We are simply different. We ask the court to show them the same mercy we showed them. Give them a chance to learn, to change, to see that there are many ways to live. That is what our father taught us. The courtroom was silent. Then the judge spoke. You call the human your father? Yes, Bam said simply. He took us when we had nothing. He fed us, taught us, loved us. He is our father in every way that matters. The warriors were sentenced to rehabilitation instead of imprisonment. The judge said that if Vralken Cubs could show such wisdom and mercy, then the courts could do no less. After Day was released from medical care, he received a summons. The full Galactic Council was convening for an emergency session. The topic was simple but world-changing. Should humans be officially recognized as having special abilities in cross-species child-rearing? The council chambers were packed. Representatives from every member species attended. Scientists presented data. Anthropologists shared their findings. And Dr. Park Yuna gave her final report. After 6 months of intensive study, my conclusions are clear, Yuna said, her voice steady. Humans possess an evolutionary trait that is rare among sapient species. We call it indiscriminate nurturing instinct. Most species instinctively care for their own young and conditionally care for others. Humans can bond with and nurture virtually any young creature. We see potential rather than predetermined destiny. This is not a weakness. This is a profound strength, the opposition argued loudly. They said humans were interfering with natural development, playing with forces they did not understand, creating confused individuals who belonged nowhere. Then Elder Corveth stood to speak. The chamber fell silent. His voice was powerful and commanding. I have lived 300 years. I have fought in 100 battles. I have raised many cubs the traditional way. And I tell you this, I was wrong. We were all wrong. These human-raised young are not weaker. They are stronger, not in body alone, but in spirit. They have learned to be fierce without being cruel, proud without being arrogant, strong without being dominating. If this is corruption, then we should all wish to be so corrupted. The final testimony came from Bam and Hanul themselves. Standing in the center of the massive chamber, they looked small despite their size. But when they spoke, their voices carried weight. Hanul went first. We are Vralken, look at us. We are strong, fast, dangerous. We could kill most beings in this room. This is our nature. But we choose not to. We choose compassion. We choose kindness. We choose to use our strength to protect rather than destroy. Our mother gave us to a human because she knew something the galaxy forgot. Children are not born into destiny. They are shaped by how they are raised, by who loves them. We are not less Vralken because we are kind. We are more. Bam added, Our father showed us a different way to be strong. He taught us that mercy is not weakness, that gentleness is not cowardice, that love is the greatest strength of all. We are proof that any being, no matter how dangerous, can choose a better path. If you make this choice illegal, you tell the galaxy that change is impossible, that nature always wins over nurture, but we are standing here as living proof that you are wrong. The vote took 3 hours. When the results came in, the chamber erupted. The first contact nursery accord had passed by a significant majority. It established that any species could place orphaned or at-risk young with licensed human caregivers. Human nurturing methods were officially recognized as valid and valuable. Mixed upbringing individuals would have full citizenship rights. A new profession was created: interspecies family counselors. The media started calling it Day's Law. Day himself called it embarrassing. 5 years passed. The galaxy transformed in ways no one had predicted. Hundreds of human families on Earth and human colonies began raising young from dozens of species. Krith war beasts learned to be therapy animals. Saltek's venom wings worked as search and rescue partners. Even species that had warred for centuries began finding common ground through their shared experience of being raised by humans. Bomb and Hanul became ambassadors, traveling the galaxy and speaking about their experience. They started cultural exchange programs, bringing young Vralken to meet human families and vice versa. They even started their own family, raising their cubs with a mixture of Vralken tradition and human values. The old mining station Bekdu 7 was converted into a museum and learning center. Thousands of visitors came every month to see where it all began. Humans came to learn about interspecies parenting. Other species came to understand humans better. Everyone came to see the small room where two cubs had learned that love could change the world. On the 5th anniversary of the Accord, an old woman named Han arrived at the museum. She brought 3 young Krith war beasts with her, playful and gentle despite their fearsome appearance. They ran through the exhibits, their adoptive grandmother watching with a warm smile. A young couple, Jay and Nari, approached her nervously. They were there to meet their new charge, a salt hex hatchling. They were terrified and excited in equal measure. Han smiled at them. "You will do fine. Remember, they are not dangerous. They are just children who need someone to believe in them." "But what if we fail?" Nari asked. "Then you will learn and try again. That is what parents do. Humans have always been good at loving things that others fear. It is our gift to the galaxy." That evening, the museum held a ceremony. They unveiled a hologram memorial to the Vralken mother, who had started it all. She was shown in her final moment, head bowed, trusting a strange alien with her most precious treasures. Below the hologram were words written in 100 languages. She saw in humanity what humanity sees in all young creatures: hope, potential, and the possibility of a better tomorrow. Her trust changed the galaxy. Day stood before the memorial with Bomb and Hanul on either side of him. They were adults now, massive and powerful, but they stood close to him, protective and loving. Reporters asked Day how it felt to have changed galactic society. "I did not change anything," Day said quietly. "I just showed love to 2 children who needed it. Everything else followed from that simple act. Love is not complicated. It is not special. It is just choosing to see the best in someone and helping them become it. Any being in this galaxy can do that. I just happened to be the first." Hanul nuzzled his shoulder gently. "You taught us that predators do not have to be monsters. That strength can be gentle, that the fiercest hearts can also be the kindest. You gave us a choice about who we wanted to be, and we chose to be like you." Bomb added. Data came in from across the galaxy. In 20 years, interspecies conflicts had decreased by 67%. Understanding between different peoples had increased dramatically. Young beings raised in mixed species households became natural diplomats and bridge builders. The galaxy was becoming kinder, more connected, more hopeful. Later that night, Day sat on the observation deck watching the stars. Captain Sung joined him, bringing 2 cups of real coffee from Earth. "You did it," Sung said. "You changed everything." "Their mother did it," Day corrected. "She made an impossible choice to trust. I just followed through. The galaxy is better because of what you started." Day thought about all the families now raising young from different species, all the cubs and hatchlings and pups learning that they could be more than their instincts. All the parents learning that love transcended biology. "Maybe," Day said. "Or maybe we just finally learned what should have been obvious all along. Every child deserves someone who believes in them. Every young creature deserves a chance to become the best version of themselves. That is not human exceptionalism. That is just basic decency." Above them, the stars shone bright. Somewhere out there, a human was putting a Vralken cub to bed, reading stories and giving goodnight hugs. Somewhere, a Krith was learning to be gentle. Somewhere, a Saltex was learning to trust. And everywhere, the galaxy was slowly learning that love was stronger than fear, hope was stronger than programming, and kindness was the ultimate act of bravery. The predator had left her cubs with the human, and in doing so, she had left the galaxy a gift beyond measure. The knowledge that change was always possible, that nature did not have to be destiny, and that every creature, no matter how dangerous, carried within them the capacity for love. That simple truth became the foundation for a new galactic age, an age where beings looked at each other and saw not what they were born to be, but what they could choose to become. And it all started with 1 human, 2 cubs, and a mother's impossible trust.